Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michael Barasch, managing partner here at Barasch McGarry, and I appreciate you joining us today. We're going to give the other attendees who signed up a few more minutes, and then we're going to get going. My hope is that we'll get through the entire presentation in about a half hour. Depends how many questions you ask, but I'm certainly hoping that many of you will reach out to us afterwards if you have any follow-up questions. We're just very passionate about making sure that people know their rights. And sadly, too many people in the 9/11 community still don't understand that they are eligible for the benefits of the World Trade Center Health Program and the Victim Compensation Fund. So let's just give them another few minutes, or probably just one more minute, and then we'll get going. Yeah, I see a lot of people are joining right now. So for those of you who just joined, I'm Michael Barasch. I welcome you to this HR webinar today and how to comply with the 9/11 Notice Act, which is now law in New York State. And you're going to be hearing from a number of people who were responsible for helping to get this bill passed. And it's not that hard to comply with it, but we're going to try to impress upon you how important it is for your former employees, who, even if they're long gone now and no longer work for your company, and also your current employees who were with you 24 years ago. So many of them don't realize they are entitled to the benefits which the government gave us. So that's the purpose of today's webinar. I think I've dragged this out long enough. So I'm going to start by introducing Jamie Alfieri. Jamie is the head of human relations at Barasch and McGarry. Jamie, welcome. And would you please introduce yourself and explain what we're here for today?
Hi, everyone. As Michael said, I'm Jamie Alfieri. I'm the head of human resources for Barasch and McGarry, and I'm here to impress upon you the importance of the outreach for the 9/11 Notice Act. Honestly, we're talking about an event that happened many years ago, and I'm an HR person. I understand how challenging it is to go back and look at employee records from 20 plus years ago. Sometimes they're digitized, sometimes it's an Excel spreadsheet, sometimes it's a box living in a storage facility. But I can't begin to tell you how important it is for you to do that outreach, because the compensation that people can receive and don't realize that they're eligible for is absolutely life-changing, even if the person had already passed. The money could really be extraordinarily helpful to the family who is left behind. As an HR professional, I have done such outreach here at Barasch and McGarry to our former employees. We have done the outreach. We are in the zone, and there have been instances where our former employees have received compensation, and those people who have passed, their families received some compensation which helped them move to the next chapter in their life. So I'm going to turn this over to our next speaker. It's extraordinarily important for you to do this outreach.
All right, thank you, Jamie. I like to start these webinars that we do with a short video that talks a little bit about the advocacy work we do. As Jamie mentioned, we are in the exposure zone. Our office is on Park Place, which is, I'm looking at the New World Trade Center right now outside my window. We were here when the towers were attacked and fell that day. We returned to work when the EPA told us that the air was safe to breathe. Many of you remember that. So let's start by showing this short video, and then we'll come back on the other side.
The first thing that I hear from the non-first responder community in Lower Manhattan is, I'm sick, but I don't deserve anything. I'm not a first responder. I just lived here. I just studied here. I just went to school here. I just raised a family here. Your presence here was an act of courage and resilience. The first responders, I'm in awe. But I also am in great awe of those who came back to a war-torn neighborhood that was clearly toxic. We knew it, but you stayed anyway, and you allowed this area to grow. But it's your courage and your resilience that brought this place back. So please, I urge you, access what you are owed.
Over the last decade, we have all fought very hard so that everyone has access to the health care that they need. It is very important that every community member, anywhere south of Houston, understands that you are covered. You are part of the group of people that have guaranteed health care if you have a 9/11 related disease.
So we have taken on, with all of these advocates here, the task of trying to get everyone to understand that they have rights, and it is imperative that they sign up.
One of the really surprising things about our research is that an event in 2001 can continue to have echoes decades later, such that it is as though never smokers are smoking 2 packs a day.
People don't realize that they are eligible, and for many people, it's not a question of if they're going to get sick, it's a question of when.
How do I prove my illness was caused by the 9/11 toxins? You don't have to prove that, it's presumptive. You only have to prove that you lived or you worked in the downtown area.
Many of us returned before the fires were out, without proper equipment, without proper advice from professionals, and now a slew of health conditions, respiratory issues, and many cancers.
Basically, to be entitled to compensation, you need to prove that you were either caught in the dust cloud on 9/11 or that you were below Canal Street between 9/11 and May 30th of 2002. That's all it takes.
So I want to introduce now John Feel of the Feel Good Foundation. John, thank you for joining us. John will not tout his own horn, but I will tell you, many of you have heard of him. John was in Washington with Jon Stewart, advocating, made dozens and dozens and dozens of trips to Washington. He's also made dozens of trips to Albany, and he helped convince the New York State Legislature to pass the 9/11 Notice Act. So John, tell us a little bit about that journey. And you can also talk about what you've been doing in Washington.
Thank you for having me, Michael. Let's go back in time. Over the last 22 years, I've helped pass 19 pieces of legislation. And most people just think it's in Washington. But fact is, I've passed more bills in Albany than I have in DC. And to be part of the 9/11 Notice Act, you got to give special thanks to Senator Kavanaugh and Assemblyman Said. Governor Hochul signed this into law in September 11th of 2024. And this is just basically simply asking HR departments their moral obligation to reach out to their retirees and let them know that the World Trade Center Health Program and the VCF are there for their retirees so they can take advantage of these benefits. If you were working or went to school or lived in Lower Manhattan, then you're entitled to what every 9/11 first responder. I am a first responder, and I've never advocated just for first responders. We advocate for everybody, and we want these HR departments, you, to advocate for your retirees. Together, all of us together, create the perfect recipe to help people. And that's why we're here today. And, let's not kid ourselves. Barasch McGarry is a well-known VCF law firm, but they're also a well-known advocacy group because they've been working with the Feel Good Foundation for the last 15 years. And we employ you. In the beginning, when we reached out to corporations and businesses in Lower Manhattan, they thought the onus was on them. Hey, can you help us get your retirees? Well, we don't want to help. There's no onus on anybody other than doing the right thing. And we're imploring that today.
All right, thanks, John. Jamie, would you take us through what the 9/11 Notice Act requires employers to do?
Sure. Basically, it requires employers who are in the zone to reach out to their employees who were in the zone on 9/11 and going forward. You do need to notify your employee either via text message, mail, or email. Honestly, we have a pro forma that you can refer to, and we're happy to help you. The law was signed into effect on September 11th, 2023, and we don't know what the enforcement looks like for those who don't comply, but we're all HR professionals. We all know the importance of compliance and the ramifications if we don't comply and somebody files an action. And I'm also speaking to you as a human being. we need to reach out to these people and let them know that they are eligible for compensation. The compensation that they receive from the Victims' Compensation Fund is the difference between losing your home and paying off your mortgage. Your family having financial difficulty and sending your children to college without worrying about the financial impact on that. And I know looking for files that are more than 20 years old is challenging, but honestly, you could start with your current employee population. We all have longer tenured employees. I was working during 9/11, so not everybody is retired. And you could just simply ask them, who can I contact? Who can I reach out to? And make sure that they are aware of what they're eligible for.
And also, Jamie, I might add in that video, I mentioned how both the World Trade Center Health Program and the Victim Compensation Fund, they will accept letters from former colleagues
Right.
saying, "Oh yeah, I worked next to Joe. I saw Sarah at work every day." But what's even more impactful to both the health program and the Victim Compensation Fund, and we'll talk about these two programs in a minute, are letters from former employers. We call them employee verification letters that just say, John Smith worked at our company in 2001 and 2002 at this address. And that's enough for them to get free health care for life for any 9/11 illness and compensation from the Victim Compensation Fund. God forbid they ever get sick. So let's talk a little bit about the exposure zone, which Jamie, you referred to. Dana Cohn is one of my partners here at Barasch McGarry. Dana, would you please explain the two different exposure zones?
Of course. So under the 9/11 Notice Act, employers will be required to notify employees and former employees and families of former employees who may have passed away about two programs, the World Trade Center Health Program and the September 11th Victim Compensation Fund. The exposure zone for the World Trade Center Health Program is Manhattan, all of Manhattan below Houston Street, and a part of Brooklyn extending about a mile and a half from Ground Zero. The Victim Compensation Fund exposure zone is smaller. It covers lower Manhattan south of Canal Street. And that's the area where the dust and the debris were really the heaviest. Together, these two zones define who was exposed for purposes of receiving health care and medical monitoring and compensation.
That's great. And some of you may be wondering, why are there two different zones? Trust me, I've been doing this work now for the 9/11 community for 24 plus years. I don't know. It seems so arbitrary, but so much of the two programs you're going to hear about now are arbitrary. But let's not let perfect be the enemy of good. There are so many benefits to both programs, and that's what we want you to share with your longtime employees and your former employees who were there 24 years ago. Liam Lynch is with us today. Liam was with NICOSH for a long time. Liam, welcome. And would you tell us about what is NICOSH, first of all?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Michael. It's good to be here today. So I was with NICOSH, New York Committee for Occupational Safety and Health, and we were an organization that advocated for 9/11 responders and survivors. And my predecessors were all 9/11 responders and survivors. So we're here today to talk about two programs, right? We're here to talk about the World Trade Center Health Program and the Victim Compensation Fund. So the health program is providing no cost health care for responders and survivors who have illnesses related to their exposure. So it's no cost for responders. They can get a free annual exam to check up on things like, screening for, colon cancer, which is great. And the reason that this program there's so many reasons why this program is so important. Is one, it's providing healthcare, right? For for this very deserving community. But also because these doctors in this program understands the unique circumstances that this population is suffering from, and therefore there is very tailored care for them. So it's not just like going to your regular doctor. It's a team of doctors and healthcare professionals who know this community and know how to provide healthcare to them. And we're talking about many physical conditions as well as mental health conditions like PTSD and anxiety or disorder are also covered. Also, this program is designed to evolve with its population. So the research is ongoing on how we can better care for this community. And the research, that they're collecting and doing work on could help future populations who are impacted by disasters, so that we know how to better protect folks in the future. But also that potentially there are more conditions that could be added on that they are connecting to 9/11 exposure.
I think that's a
Yeah.
great point, Liam. And you're about to talk about some of the presumptive 9/11 illnesses, but
Yes.
cancers were not even linked to the World Trade Center toxins until 2013, 2014. So, and then more about 2 or 3 years ago. So the research that's being done by the health program is great. And I think I jumped the gun a little bit. Excuse me, before you get to the presumptive illnesses. So I mentioned earlier how the EPA really did mislead everybody. The fact is, they wanted to reopen Wall Street, and they did the following week. But they did so by announcing that the air was safe to breathe when they didn't really have the evidence to say that. As a result, 300,000 people returned to their work, to their jobs in Lower Manhattan starting the following week. I mean, my office here didn't open until 3 weeks later because we had no electricity. But when we did move back in, it was with the assurance that the air was safe. Those buildings were on fire for 99 days. So it really wasn't that safe. But then let's give Congress credit. In 2010, Congress passed a bipartisan bill almost unanimously, which is crazy in this day and age to think that anything could be unanimous, but it was. And it created the World Trade Center Health Program and the Victim Compensation Fund. It was called the Zedroga Health and Compensation Act, named in honor of our client, Detective Jimmy Zedroga of the NYPD. So now you heard Liam talk about how there have been all these studies by doctors at different hospitals. And finally, this bill is passed and there were presumptive illnesses. So go ahead, Liam. Tell us what the most common presumptive illnesses are.
Yes, thank you. And just one important note on that last slide that I just want to really highlight is that you do not have to receive care in the New York City metro area. There are clinical centers of excellence in the New York City metro area, but you can receive care in every state, including Puerto Rico. So, if you're retired down in Florida, North Carolina, there are doctors that can care for this population. So really important to highlight that. So there are there's like 69 cancers that are linked to 9/11 exposure from that dust. Prostate, breast cancer being the most, skin cancer, the most common that we see. And then there are plenty of common non-cancers, a lot of aerodigestive illnesses like COPD, asthma, sleep apnea. And like I said before, the health program also covers mental health conditions as well, PTSD, panic disorder, anxiety disorder. And so there are just absolutely fabulous healthcare professionals in this program that are willing and ready to help this community.
Liam, I'm just going to ask you to focus on number one. The most common cancer is skin cancer. And I can't tell you how many clients I have spoken to over the years who have said, oh, I'm fine. I had some asthma, sinusitis. And I'll say, well, what about cancer? No, thank God, I never had cancer. And I've been trained now to say, well, What about skin cancer like basal cell or squamous? Oh yeah, I had some stuff taken off, but I'm fine now. Well, that's great for them, but they are missing the point that all their copays and deductibles for that cancer are covered. And oh yeah, by the way, they're entitled to $90,000, which we'll get to in a minute. But it's important that people realize that skin cancer isn't just melanoma, it's also basal cell and squamous cell. So let's move on. Lee London, thanks for joining us as well. Lee's one of my partners here at the firm. And, we've been talking about the exposure zone, or Dana did. Would you tell us who some of our who are the people who we represent the most at some of these downtown companies?
Sure. Thank you, Michael. And thank you everyone for joining today, this webinar. I really do appreciate you going that extra mile to find more information about what is the 9/11 Notice Act and how you can help your former employees and active employees. I've been working for the 9/11 community for Barasch McGarry for over 12 years now, when the fund started as a temporary program. This program has now been fully funded, permanently extended till 2090, and again, fully funded. So survivors, workers in the zone are not taking money away from first responders by taking advantage of these benefits. These programs were meant for them. It was extended for them because, just like Michael said, they had to reopen the stock market. If you look to the left on the slides, you see the major employers that people think of, but there were thousands of employers with many employees that came back to the zone, and they're the ones that really need this help and notice. Now, when I first started, I have had Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase people find out about the fund and say, why hasn't my company sent something out to us? It doesn't make sense. They were friends with a cop or a firefighter that told them about this program. And as the years gone on, they would say, Lee, can you help out my coworker? Can you help out this coworker? Hey, does HR help us with this? They ask us these questions. So it's just good that we're talking about this, and we are a resource to you, because many times HR professionals change over, and then someone taking this over gets a request for 9/11 information, and they go, what is this? How can I help? What can I do? So asking questions, joining this webinar, and using us as a resource and using the program can help your staff, your employees tremendously. Now, if you look at the schools that were in the zone as well, because not only our teachers, but the janitorial staff, the office workers, there were a lot of businesses below Canal Street, schools that need to take advantage of this and haven't yet. And with the 25th anniversary approaching just next year, this is a gift, and this is something that you need to get out to your staff. And doing something is better than doing nothing at all. Even if you're worried, I don't know if they qualify, do they? Let them ask the questions, but be that spark that have them ask these questions to this program. Because if we do nothing at all, many former employees, even here, our firm was in the zone, moved away to Florida. Do they keep up with, Facebook ads? Yes, but are they looking at their former employee who they worked on 9/11's website or bulletin? No. So that's why it's important to connect the dots for the staff, and you are in a great position to help out current and former employees if they do have 9/11 exposure.
John, I want to ask you a question because you are a first responder who was there in the pit at ground zero. And, you fought so hard in Washington to get this bill with Jon Stewart passed and extended till 2090. Thankfully, the unions have done a great job educating their former workers. And as a result, over 85% of cops and firefighters are in the World Trade Center Health Program, which is just as important as the Victim Compensation Fund. My question, John, is why are less than 10% of the civilians enrolled?
Great question. Let's start off with the misnomers and the misconception. Many survivors, those who lived and worked and went to school in Lower Manhattan, think that they're taking money from a hero. Two, they didn't think they qualified. Three, they don't have the internet. Four, they live under a rock. And five, they moved away out of Lower Manhattan early on and they went across the country like a spider web, and they're just not entitled to this information, which is why the Notice of Participation Act is so vital, and why the HR departments are so important in helping us spread this news. 11% of those who live in Lower Manhattan are only in the program. We need to raise that. We need to save lives, and collectively, united and together, we can do that.
And Dana, when you speak to widows or widowers or family members who lost loved ones many years ago, what do you hear is the reason why they didn't enroll sooner?
They didn't know. And so many people still don't know about these programs. I'm shocked uh, that this is still the case, but it is most definitely still the case. People don't know about it, or they don't believe it's for them. They believe it's for first responders.
Right. So, listen, give the New York State Legislature credit, give Governor Hochul credit. They did the right thing by passing this legislation. Now it's up to us to help get the word out and make sure that companies know about this bill so that they will comply. So Liam already spoke about the benefits of the World Trade Center Health Program. Lee, would you speak a little bit about the benefits of the Victim Compensation Fund for personal injury victims?
Sure. So as Michael stated before, the Zadroga Act was broke down into two programs. You have the World Trade Center Health Program on one side, which is no cost healthcare for the rest of your life. If you have 9/11 exposure, treatments, cancer, checkups, it gets expensive. So that's why the benefits of the health program are so important. On the other side is another government program called the Victim Compensation Fund. This is a program that has been fully funded and permanently extended till 2090, which gives you a monetary award for your conditions. And it also has many other types of claims that you can make for economic loss, loss of earnings. Many times workers in the zone get cancer at the age of 45, go on short-term disability, long-term disability, and these are disabling cancers, and then go on Social Security disability after long-term, and then we could make an economic loss claim for them, linking that but for their cancer, they would still be working. And these aren't regular cancers. This is 9/11 aggressive cancer that could pop up out of nowhere. You could be perfectly healthy, and then all of a sudden it comes along. And this is why we got the fund permanently extended till 2090, because cancer comes in many waves, forms, and this is why the Victim Compensation Fund has been set up. Now, no amount of money will ever take the place of 9/11 exposure and what you go through in the suffering, but the Victim Compensation Fund has many claims that you can make. One is out-of-pocket medical expenses. So if you are diagnosed with prostate cancer or breast cancer in 2008 and you spent a lot of money treating that cancer, and then you've kept your bills and receipts, we can make a claim directly to the Victim Compensation Fund to get you reimbursed for all those out-of-pocket medicals because you didn't even know about the health program yet. You weren't part of it. Another claim is non-economic loss. It's for pain and suffering for your conditions. And non-life-threatening conditions, GERD, upper respiratory, asthma, obstructive sleep apnea, those conditions can range from 10 to 20,000 to 90,000 based on severity. But what I tell anybody, a survivor, a first responder, is you want to join the Victim Compensation Fund now, when you have a cough, when you have asthma, because 20,000 award is not going to cover all the pain you're going through, but it sets you up because in 5-10 years from now, God forbid you get a cancer, you can easily amend your claim for an increased award, and you don't have to prove your presence 20 years from now. You want to prove your presence in the zone now, today, while you can get the witness presence statements that you need, you can get the employment verification letters, which HR directors provide, and they provide it to the fund, and that's what qualifies as you being part of the zone. HR directors, the fund is moving towards not being reliant on witnesses and being more reliant on documents based from employers that have the records to support it. They would rather that than 2 eyewitnesses. So that's why your role is so important. And as Michael mentioned before, having the specific dates of employment, having the locations are critical, and can avoid can avoid 9/11 community members needing witnesses. If they have a very well done employment verification letter, they are set and it goes a long way.
Hey, Lee, I have to take an issue with something that you said. You said even if they have GERD or asthma or just sinusitis and are only going to get $10,000 or $20,000, you said that they should apply. But I have to tell you, and I bet you that Liam would agree with me. I think healthy people should consider applying now too, while their companies are still in business, while they can still get in touch with their former colleagues.
That's a
Liam, what do
great
you
point.
think about that? When you were at NICOSH, were you telling healthy people to enroll in the health program and the victim compensation fund?
Yeah, there's definitely the answer is absolutely. One, first and foremost, responders are entitled to, a free annual exam. But for survivors, I've encountered many that would downplay their conditions where, oh, I only have, PTSD. It's like, well, that's a serious mental health condition that's covered, and that can be taken care of. But even if you think that you're healthy, you might actually, GERD is covered. Like there's things that are covered that we think of, oh, we just are dealing with, as but these are conditions that are linked to 9/11. And also, if you do your paperwork now, while you are healthy, that is the easiest time to do this, so that when you are sick, you can give your family and yourself peace of mind.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you said that because it's just so heartbreaking when I get a call from someone with pancreatic cancer. And look, in the most of the time, that is not a good prognosis. So
Michael,
that's not when you want to start the process. John, Phil, what do you say about that as well? Should healthy people be enrolling? And by the way, Liam used the term survivor. What we mean by survivor are non-first responders. So, John, what do you say about that?
Well, I'd say in the 9/11 community, we have a higher survival rate than the general population against cancer. And while cancer ravages the 9/11 community, we have a higher survival rate because our doctors and our scientists now know what they're looking for. So somebody who lived and worked or went to school in Lower Manhattan might go to their oncologist and they might not know the right questions to ask and they don't know what they're looking at. And while our cancers are aggressive and they come out of nowhere, they have a better chance of survival because we have early screening protection and we have other methods of medical advancement that the general population just does not get. There's 48,000 people right now with a certified 9/11 related cancer. Many of them are employees of the HR departments that are on this Zoom today. If there's 48,000 people that we know of, and
Right.
142,000 people in the program. Just imagine how many more people we can be helping.
Yeah, just to give everyone an idea, altogether, it's kind of agreed that there were 500,000 people in the 9/11 community. 100,000 of them are police officers and firefighters, sanitation workers, construction workers, volunteers. Those are considered responders. There were 400,000 civilians, including the students, the 50,000 students at the 20 schools south of Houston Street. So Lee, let's talk about what, in my opinion, is the best thing about the Victim Compensation Fund, which is you never waive your future rights.
yes, and Michael, before you made a great point, because mental conditions such as PTSD and anxiety is covered by the World Trade Center Health Program, and that's why it's so important to get people into these programs. Mental conditions are not covered under the Victim Compensation Fund, but the reason we want you to join the program, healthy, sick, is because the more people in the program, the more illnesses they can add and the more data they have. They didn't have enough women in the World Trade Center Health Program to add uterine cancer. Finally, enough survivors joined the program, and now uterine cancer was added as an eligible condition under the fund. That was a huge accomplishment because adding additional cancers to this program will help more people realize and connect the dots. Now, Michael made a point about the best part of the Victim Compensation Fund because the Victim Compensation Fund truly cares. This is a government program that truly cares and has really dedicated their staff, their process to help the 9/11 community. And the terminal expedite process is an unbelievable process because we can get an award and a claim turned around for somebody who qualifies for a terminal claim, stage 4 cancers with a shortened life expectancy, an award can be turned around in less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Do you know what that does for the family? Now, no amount of money will ever replace what is going on. But if someone's diagnosed with bladder cancer and they're entitled to a tax-free award of $250,000, and we get that turned around for them within 2 week time period, the family is so happy. The client is satisfied that his family is taken care of and that he has this done. And many times HR members will call me and be like, a former employee reached out to me. He's terminal. Is there anything special we have to do? I really feel bad for this family right now. And I walk them through the process. You know, having this terminal program, this financial expedite program, if you're going through an eviction, is so key. And the Victim Compensation Fund does relate to that. And they rush these claims and they prioritize the sickest members of the 9/11 community first. Like I said before, lost income is a huge type of claim that we make to the fund for loss of earnings, past of loss earnings. Many times employees might leave the company for cancer and come back. So we do fluctuations of earnings claims as well. And everything is confidential too. So a lot of times employees will call me and be like, I'm actively working at my company right now. I'm embarrassed to tell them I have cancer and I need an EVL from them. Will they keep this private? You know, will they be able to search my claim on the VCF? Many of our clients ask us this because when they get that moment where they get this diagnosis and they're actively working, it stops their life. And having a safe place, having someone in HR to be a safe spot for them to ask questions and to get resources they need is paramount to get more people aware of this program.
Right. And I just want to go back to the fact that you never waive your rights. We've had many people say, oh, it's not worth it. I don't want to just do this for $10,000. It's not worth it. Well, it is worth it because once you are found eligible for your sinusitis or your asthma and get your $10,000 or $20,000, then let's say, God forbid, 5 years later, you get some basal cell cancer on your face, wherever, the Victim Compensation Fund will raise your award to $90,000. Then 10 years from now, let's say, God forbid, you come down with bladder cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, the Victim Fund will raise your award to $250,000 to $300,000. You didn't waive your rights. And you didn't waive your family's rights. God forbid, one day in the next 30 years, you die of cancer. Your family can bring a whole new case called a wrongful death case. And Dana, would you please speak to that? What are the benefits of wrongful death claims?
Thanks, Michael. So if the person who was exposed did not bring a claim before they passed away, the family can bring a claim for personal injury. So everything that person would have received while they were alive, that is part of the claim that the family can make. They can also make a wrongful death claim. And the benefits are really, really important to suffering families. They will include a $250,000 award for the victim's pain and suffering. That's in addition to the personal injuries. $100,000 for the spouse's pain and suffering, and for each child, each dependent that's left behind. The VCF will recognize the loss of household services, the things the person used to do around the home for the family. They will reimburse funeral expenses. And in cases where someone was still of working age, they will award lost earnings. And one of the reasons we're telling you all of this is that not just because it's important that you know about the 9/11 Notice Act, you should comply with it, it is the law, but also because the companies that understand these programs and how much they mean to the 9/11 communities are the ones that are willing to help, that will go the extra mile for their employees and their former employees, because they understand the importance of these programs in people's lives.
Thank you for that. And I just wanted to add one thing to what Lee said about the comfort that getting an award gives a person who is dying. I see this every day. We lose 2 clients a day here at Barasch McGarry to a 9/11 illness. And while we can't do anything to change the ultimate prognosis, it's so comforting to us to see that a client now knows that his spouse won't have to leave the house, that his kids can stay there, that his kids will be able to afford to go to college. And and again, these programs are available to your employees, your longtime employees who were there working with you, and to your former employees. And all you need to do is let them know. I want to wrap up now by talking about how you can comply with this. Jamie, you want to talk briefly about what HR directors should be doing now?
Sure. What I advise that you do, because it's the right thing to do. I think the law is very important, but it's also the right thing to do because your former employees could be suffering and need this financial support. So what I did and what I recommend that you do is to speak to employees who were with you around 9/11, see if they've kept in touch with anybody who worked for your firm and is no longer there, to look at your old files. We all have personnel files living in a file cabinet somewhere in the archives. Take a look at them, do the outreach. If the person had already passed, as we've indicated, there's compensation that the family can still receive for the passing and for the illnesses. And also look at Excel spreadsheets, talk to people. Really, it's time consuming, but it's good for a very, very good reason. And we've all done employment verification letters a million times over. They're not a big deal. It's a 4-sentence letter, and it can make a huge difference to a former employee, a retiree, or the family of somebody who passed.
All right, thank you, Jamie. And as you can see there, if you want more information from us, you're welcome to call us. You can click on that link. Consider us a resource. One of the questions that we get asked all the time is, do I need an attorney? The answer is no, you don't need an attorney. We're so passionate about this that we're actually, I don't know what law firms say this, but you don't need an attorney. I think it helps. Congress limited the fees that attorneys can charge to 10%. We don't charge any expenses after the 10%. But we're members of the 9/11 community. If you can hear it in our voices, we're passionate. We take this personally, and we just want to see that everybody accesses the benefits that they're entitled to. Those were actually Jon Stewart's words in that video that you saw. But consider us available to help you. One of the things that we recently did, and then I'm going to end it on this, is we reached out to every attorney who was working in Lower Manhattan because we have that list. And these are attorneys who worked anytime between 9/11 and May 30th of 2002, making them eligible if they were here for either 4 hours in the first 4 days or 24 hours in the month of September or 80 hours in the first in those 8 months. They're all eligible. And we were stunned to see how many attorneys had no idea about the fact that they were eligible. Usually it was because they thought, as John Field said, that these benefits were only available for cops and firefighters. They're not. They're available to you, to your former employees from 2020, 2001, 2002. Please help us spread the word. Do the right thing. Comply with the law. And thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon on your lunch hour. We really appreciate it.